what we want to do tonight is think about all these different, the 6 different functions that have to happen, kind of where in our community should those functions live. Knowing that some of these functions are going to have to be mobile and on the ground, but that they should also have some, kind of presence in a home somewhere, a home base. So what we want to do tonight is spend some time thinking about, we've given you a list of, every table should have it, what the functions are, along with some thoughts already that were put together on the where. So you've got a list of facilities, and you've also got a map to help situate your brain geographically about where these things should live. So that's what our focus is for this evening. This is Noelle's beautiful artwork.
This is how you can tell I had too much time on my hands.
Yeah.
I drew that myself.
I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I think she did a very good job.
Thank you. So I'm Noelle Kepler, and actually I see a lot of new faces tonight. So it's nice to see a lot of new faces. Although I will warn you, you're at the back end of a very long process. We've been doing this since February. That does not mean you should get up and leave. You should stay, because we're going to catch you up in like 10 seconds or less. What we're doing is we're creating a long-term community recovery plan. Something. We're doing something. A recovery plan. It is a 4-chapter plan. The first chapter is on the process, which will be a narrative and summary notes and a list of all the attendance and the people who came and the number of meetings and the dates and the times that we met. Really very boring stuff at the first part. The second part is the project list, the recovery projects. There's about 400 projects going on. That's not an exaggeration. That's actually what's happening in Red Hook right now. There's a little over 400 random projects. Some of them are huge, some of them are small, all going on in the name of recovery and getting Red Hook back to where it was before Hurricane Sandy. That recovery list, that list of projects lives dynamically. It is ever growing and hopefully shrinking at some point. I'm sure there'll be a plateau at some point where it starts coming down. It's online. If you want a hard copy, I have that also. I stopped making 50 copies for every meeting because frankly the Amazon was crying out. So I am now just printing as needed, but if you want to look at it online, you can go to the EMP website /Redhook, and it's there. And it's current there. The one I have printed isn't always the most current. So emp-emergency.com /Redhook, and we are updating that page this weekend with all of your fine work over the last 3 weeks. So if you take a look at it tonight, it will be, the project list is there, but if you wait until Saturday, everything we've done to get us to this point will be there as well. So just so you know that that exists. We have done the roles and responsibilities. We are in the process right now of working on this, the readiness plan. That is chapter 3. And what we needed to do was come together as a community. We have a planning group. For those of you who don't know, we have 2 groups meeting all the time. We have a planning group, which is 15 people that represent kind of a cross-section of what is Red Hook. And those people meet every 10 days or so. They're actually getting real sick of me. And we hash out a lot of the hard, heavy-duty stuff, and we narrow things down, and then we bring it into this community planning input meeting, where we give you what we came up with and ask you to say what makes the most sense for your community in your mind. And collectively, we hope to come up with one picture. So we've been doing that through the readiness plan, which has been really phenomenal. So the planning group got together and we looked at what the government calls an emergency support function, of which there are about 15, and they have about 1,000 functions that they serve underneath each one of those 15 headers. And we narrowed it down to this. The best part about that process was the planning group narrowed it down, and then we came to the community input meeting and we didn't tell you what we came up with. We asked you guys to narrow down that same list, and you came up with a very similar list. Your lists were almost identical. So this is the final list of those support functions. So kudos, check 1. Okay. Then we asked you to take those timelines and think about an event timeline from everything's fine. Say hello from Noelle. Hi, Mom. If my phone rings, it'll definitely be my mother. I haven't returned her call all day. My apologies. We take a timeline from a very normal, everything's going great day to a first advisory, say a hurricane, although we like to plan for a whatever event, because it's not just a hurricane that can disrupt Red Hook. And we talk about the first advisory, saying the National Weather Service, all the way down to city advisories, the actual event, and then the first 6, 12, all the way down to 72 hours after the event. We're planning for that 72 hours because the city has said we need you to be ready for the first 72 hours. It's going to take us that long to activate, mobilize, and get to you. So we all know that it actually took the city much longer to get to Red Hook, so we're planning in that vein, correct? So when do we need all those support functions to kick in? This is the timeline we came up with. Again, we did it in the planning meeting, and we came up with 2. We broke up into 2 groups, and then we brought it to the community, and the community came up with a timeline. That was our last meeting, and it was identical to the planning group meeting. So it sounds to me like that tells me we're on the right page and we're all moving in the same direction. Yay. Because we've been doing this since February, and I'm sure you would love to stop coming to these meetings. You're going to miss me, but it's going to take a couple months before you reach that point. So there's our timeline. So now we know what we're doing, and we know when we're doing it. The question is, where? So that's what we're going to work out tonight. Yes, the planning group already came up with the wheres, but we didn't narrow it down. What you're looking at, when I pick it up off the floor, is a list of facilities down this side. This is what we would call, and I want to be super clear about this, ideal facilities for these functions. These functions. We have not clarified with any of the people who run these facilities that this is weird. Hey, we're showing up, people. We have not had that conversation. We've not had that conversation. So we're actually going to be doing 2 exercises today. The first one is to take a look at these ideal facilities that the planning group has produced for us and look at the functions and see what makes sense to you guys at your tables. You see, you self-divided tonight. That was really well done. Thank you. See what makes sense at your table for these functions. So under each of the emergency support functions, it tells you a little bit about what it is they're going to be doing in that first 72 hours. And if you look at the timeline, you'll notice things like communication and coordination, logistics management, that actually kicks in during the advisories. You want to start the communications during the advisories because how else is everybody going to know something's going on, right? Is anybody else hot as hell? Yeah. Can we open that back door, please? I've really suffered the noise just to have some air. Yeah. So if you guys, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to pick those facilities that are most ideal for the functions that we're trying to put together in the immediate before, during, and after of an event. So that's the exercise we're going to be doing tonight. Then, when we're all done with that, we're going to make a list of like what I would call Plan B buildings. Okay? Things that if none of those buildings work, if all of these facilities are MIA because they don't have power, they don't have electricity, they're flooded, and I'm not saying it's going to be a hurricane, it's a whatever event, but we want to have a plan B. What if we just go to IKEA and IKEA is like, oh hell no, you're not using our facility. I just said that because you're wearing the shirt. They haven't said that. But then we need to have a plan B and a backup plan for that. So these are the ideal facilities. After we come up with the facilities and we go through the process, we'll reach out to those organizations. Most of them actually know we're doing this process. There's a handful we haven't reached out to yet, but they're on a very long to-do list. Right now, we just need to know what it is we'd like to do ideally. So tonight, we're just working on the where. The addresses are here. The maps are in front of you. I would ask that at every table we have a facilitator. Rob, you stay there. Tony, can I get you to come to the front table? Because you're in the planning group and you were there before. And can I get the Justice Center? Jessica was not at the meeting. Were you at the last meeting? Who was at the meeting? You were. Whoever was at the last meeting, shift this way, please, to this table. Come on. They were in the planning group meeting, so they'll help you. Oh, I love you. They'll help you come up with, they'll help facilitate this process. I'm sorry, I'm fading up here without water. So take a look at your maps. You have things in front of you. You have paper, you've got post-it notes. Whatever works for you guys to develop a process. In the next 20 minutes, I'd like to see where you think these facilities will live. Where do we think The utilities include backup generators, batteries. We've got a stockpile we are starting to put together through the Red Hook Volunteer. We have yet to find a space for that. Also, if you have spaces that you feel you can volunteer, this is the place, this is the time. So I ask you guys to work together as a group and come up with a space for those. So I'm going to let you drive that, Tim.
Yeah. Last time, that's what we got. No, we started helping.
Certain criteria apply to certain functions. Proximity to those that need it.
So anyway, we're just gonna draw a line. Yeah. Start at the top.
The people who know where it's at are in this location. And we can put everything in IKEA or spread it out. But it's more the actual, like, exactly that, the function, not the end all.
I figured this is something.
Last time they sent school buses. Some people couldn't find us upstairs. So we're in the process of working with the MTA to send them their low-flight buses, which has no steps and give these some and those people who need to be transported to these places can be done by them rather than relying on buses that they can't find. As well as doing the process of evacuation to get people who are bedridden, oxygen tanks. Only 3 or 4 steps, but 3 or 4 steps is a lot for somebody.
Facilitate.
All right.
Thanks. So we got, is there enough copies? We share?
That's okay, but I know all the facilities you're gonna mention. Yeah.
It's fine. This probably will take the whole time. So, health and medical.
I mean, I don't think that should be at the clinic. Shouldn't like
Remember, guys, we're only talking about the first 72 hours. We're not talking about the
Yeah, I mean, certain things that we're trying to look at is that when the hurricane hit last time, Fairway was destroyed. They lost everything. So,
But if you're saying also that the future isn't necessarily going to be at these locations, it's going to be coordination. I mean, if you figure hundreds of people are going to be looking for free, how about I create yeah, but I you know what it is, but I create
I'm gonna look like the map. Action shot. Point at the map.
Action shot.
depending on what it is, yeah, you can but if it's another,
we have to look at the city for people from Lincoln to all the way to Fairway for food. We have to look at where
so if that's one of the central locations, then I guess you're going to have to do it. Right, what's it,
most cases it's going to be, like for instance, for a visitation church, when we call the charities,
That's true.
say, hey, we need you over here. The food there, and the people started coming in with food or supplies. We're pretty sure that they had started giving out stuff then Sandy Serrano worked for our recognition, called us and said, look, we need more space. Recognition is a small building. Exactly. So now, together with all other big large locations, marketing, recognition, Calvin Baptist Church is another big space, or Middle on Britain, you don't have to go that far. And also the school that's right there, Cape Academy. Those places should be, stocking food to hand out in the event of emergency.
They've allowed the facility.
That's what she has to do.
This is all ideal. No one has said yes. No one even knows.
Now, like with the medical supplies, you definitely going to need different locations for people to looking at the list right now, you have to say, so which ones would be more ideal for residents? Look at places that have big gymnasiums, here we have a big gymnasium, we have a big gymnasium. DS15 at the time, they were out of action because they got flooded out themselves. Also in Canada, there's other places. You gotta think long term. We're up and running the presentation, but we basically because it was flooded. We managed to use the church itself.
Like the parking lot in the fairway is kind of restricted, and the traffic, if it's trucks or even smaller trucks, it's a lot harder to get into fairway. They have a lot of truck traffic there. I think it's pretty wide. That whole highway, everybody coming in, it's just pretty wide, and it's easy access from like Columbia and whatever. Everybody gets in.
Also, logistics, so she told me, is also like a lot of people like on the phone telling people what to do. IKEA has power, space for all that.
They did have all the, like right after Sandy, they did have all that, for like insurance and everything else. They had taped it up.
They also had if you needed to try to phone.
Right, we can do it there too, so people were there too.
So that's it for logistics. Because it's just the parking lot alone, they could set up tents and say, hey, we could set up there, and whatever trucks or whatever donations would be easier to go there. And their parking lots are bigger than everybody else's.
And they have more space to
They have more spaces, yeah.
because they were flooded. I know they weren't on there. I don't know why. We should add them.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked with you.
I'm thinking if I want food or shelter, well, I live right next door, but I might go there. I would go there or here.
Yeah, maybe we can add them. We can add
You
them.
guys come up with some pretty good criteria. I think
And that's kind of what you guys would like to do, right? Similar.
Yeah.
then go to
That's what we did
recommend
last time.
what functions are highest, they did a great job here. And I gave them 3 problems we need as far, essentially today. We would go through.
They have like there.
What do we need for health and medical?
We don't have much room for people because we were storing all the stuff.
Pre-assigned allocation.
We couldn't do hot food because our kitchen was destroyed.
But they did great because they gave me
Yeah. We have the kitchen, now we're in it's better. It has been production, water coming in back. Right, we would have to pass
That's the other thing I think we ought to figure out, like, who's got a generator? You know, somebody has it. Some of these buildings have it.
Well, she said they're building turn to a mass to generators now. So, yeah.
That includes some water, fuel, some service, a little food, a little clothes, just in a small bag. Everybody should have that. Something that happens, just take your kid and go there.
It's called a go bag. Right. We have a term for it.
And this for 1 day, 2 days maximum. And then after that, things settle. And then you will be able to come back and say, but nutritional weight is for any food or any medicine or doctor or anything else.
But there is a discussion, like there's a discussion, for instance, statistics management. One of the things that we're going to talk about is a stockpile. Like there will be a site located within, as part of this plan, that will be above the flood zone, where we could stockpile things such as preparedness or flashlights. So that's something that people know, okay? In case of an emergency, that's where they're all stored. So, it might help if you talk about each of the functions and then talk about the criteria list that Rob wrote and look at that and discuss them further to start looking at places where they go. So the first one
because you get past developing a plan that everyone knows to swing into effect. So third floor becomes the clinic, boom, or whatever. Right.
Like the response team should be there.
That should be IKEA. The response team should be IKEA because
The headquarters should be in our store.
Because the biggest response, that the people that needed the most response, it seemed like people were stuck in night housing. That's where the concentration of the population is. And I mean, I don't think we can have one in Michigan doing it. But what's close to so what's close to the houses and what's already, like I know Redwood Initiative is already training first responder teams, the Justice Center.
when we're talking about close and we're talking about walking distance, IKEA said we're talking walking distance.
We're talking about this
Association, whatever they get last line, there's similar places, we were in the habit of going to
will be useful for
whatever
that.
clinic
And
that's
then you have the people who are doing the food closer to
assignment
you.
allocation.
And you have, that's, I think, a way to think about it. I would love it if it was more central too, but I think that it doesn't rule it out as being like the headquarters and the place to really direct stuff, that you've got that. And it's, you know what, you've got somebody in NYCHA who has life-sustaining equipment, you can get them out.
Close to the flood zone?
You can reach here and plug them in. You've got that. That's,
Where actually,
I mean, I'm saying,
Should not be, if we
for some of
leave
those functions, but maybe it's not the central of those functions.
Well, the other thing that I think we should keep in mind, has come up in these previous meetings, one place, even the biggest place can't serve the whole neighborhood immediately. Things will probably, somewhere will probably get up and running quickly.
those around,
Might work the IKEA. But it's a big neighborhood. So, there's a huge population living in
that's awesome. I mean,
buildings and
this might not be the logical medical facility.
So we
If it's a flood.
IKEA in the front for all kinds of services is awesome. But we need other ones too. It's kind of a false binary to say, well,
Each of these locations suffered the last
5 minutes, guys, 5 minutes.
and last time disaster.
right.
Because all the basement got flooded. All the problems in the basement.
And everybody's
But
coming.
IKEA was built with hurricane
For our
resiliency in
conversation,
mind.
everybody's in need, what would be a secondary location?
And then we'll have a report from everybody from the table to report back out.
All right, so put that H&M, so just so we mark it. That's great.
We have 6 sites and then a site. But there could be other sites that aren't on the list.
time, because timing is important. This is sort of the same as hurricane Sandy. And during this period, nobody can vote.
Right, but that's what these things that it's which we already had set up.
You already have the communication.
Right.
It seems to me the places where people, even this morning, they had
Isn't that what we're talking about? Or something like that?
And it'll be a stuff donation, not a money, it'll be like an in-kind. And they have crate radios, they have flashlights, and the emergency blankets, and tool bags. And it wouldn't hurt to just have those handy in that stock house. But you're right, you don't want to stock house. We have lots of food. We're not
Someone has to maintain a pile of stuff.
I didn't know volunteer. It has to be volunteer.
And if something, a place is
Did you find it more challenging today or more challenging in the planning group? Mama?
Challenging today.
So the reason we do this, and the only reason I'm asking that question is, the reason we have a planning group that narrows things down, and we bring it into this group, is we come in here, and there's a lot more people in the community input, and it's much more challenging to get these things done because it's a lot more input. So I hope that you can all appreciate that we're trying to encompass that here. Our goal is to come to consensus. So that's where we're going to meet our challenge tonight, coming to consensus. So with that in mind, let's start with a report out. I have colored markers, as always. You, down here, down front, Karen brought in Tony's group, the people. Mama Rosa, who's reporting out? What did you come up with?
You want to report out?
Don't all jump at once, calm down.
This table? You want us to report out?
Yes, your
Okay.
table, report
Health
out.
and medical, we went with Adabo Clinic.
Health and medical, Adabo Clinic. That makes sense.
Utilities, we gave to IKEA.
That's nice of you. Utilities,
I'm sure they'll appreciate
to IKEA.
it. And I'll tell Fred Reed tomorrow.
Okay, you can just check in
Communication
there.
and coordination,
Communication and coordination.
we gave to Red Hook Initiative.
All right, John, thank you. I'm gonna be walking around tomorrow too. What else you got, Karen?
Public safety,
Public safety,
oh, we gave to Red Hook Ball Field.
to the ball fields.
Food and shelter, we split it up 3 ways.
Food.
South Brooklyn High School, Mikio Center, and Calvary Church.
And Calvary?
Yep.
It's like a spelling challenge for me. Awesome.
Logistics went to Red Hook, Fairway.
No,
No? We
No.
changed
IKEA.
that, IKEA.
IKEA.
IKEA gets that too. Thank you, IKEA. Awesome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Beautiful. Well done.
Go table one.
Yay, table one. Table one is purple. Orange. It's like you're reading my mind. Let's go back here. We'll just go in a circle here. Rob's table, Justice table. Somebody report out. Let me know. I waited until Rob. That's awesome. What do you got right here for health and medical? Follow
Health
me.
and medical, we have IKEA,
That's nice of you.
Mikio, PS15, Adabo Clinic.
You got like all these for health and medical?
Yep.
Yes, we have to spread the wealth.
Just spread it out. Right on. Mikio, say it again. The Adamo Clinic.
Adabo Clinic,
Yes.
PS15,
I hope they're not limping back and forth to these places.
and one that's not listed on the wall, I think we probably missed, was the Red Hook Rec Center.
The rec center.
Like in general, it's not there.
Yeah.
For all of those as an option.
Yeah.
Now for utilities, we have IKEA,
Uh-huh.
South Brooklyn High School,
IKEA, South Brooklyn High.
Red Hook Initiative,
All right, John. Nice.
and
Jill appreciates it when we do that.
And what?
that's it for now.
All right. What do you got for
Communications, IKEA,
IKEA's on.
the Mikio
I
Center,
gotta start paying kickbacks to IKEA. The Mikio.
Mikio Center, Coffee Park,
IKEA only got a hotline with its own table.
I can't hear you.
Coffee Park,
Ball fields?
yeah, or any ball field, that
Any
matter.
field will do.
Any field it would do, and what's that? Realty Collective.
Realty, yeah, Victoria Space down on that run.
Yeah.
Realty, I'm gonna put real coal.
Now,
What else you got? Well, public safety.
public safety. We got Red Hook Store and Fairway Center.
Fairway,
Yes.
got it?
We gave IKEA a break on that one.
You're welcome.
Also, we have Paved Charter School.
Pave, nice.
You know,
Yeah.
for that matter, all the schools are in the area for public safety.
Okay. I'll put you on the spot in a second. Keep going.
All right, food and shelter.
Uh-huh.
Public School 676.
PS 676.
South Brooklyn High School.
South Brooklyn High.
Coffee Park.
The park, coffee.
Yes.
Coffee park.
Congregational Church,
Sure.
Calvary Baptist Church, and all churches for that matter.
Churches?
The churches
In general?
in general.
Calvary churches. Got it.
All right, logistic management. IKEA, you don't get a break on this one. IKEA,
Yeah.
Rebel Initiative,
RHI.
RHI. I will say ball fields in terms of, like, say, buses, and all the parks, different parks to pick up people they want to evacuate.
Sure, ball fields.
Ball fields.
Ball fields.
Ball fields.
We didn't cut this up here. Ball fields. Okay.
And Samuel offer Air Force One. No, sorry.
Air Force One. Awesome. Green. Awesome. Back table, IKEA.
That's as far as we got.
Health and medical. Give me what you came up with.
We had a lot of discussion, but that's pretty much as far as we got.
Health and medical we thought was at Adavo.
At the Adavo.
But I'd like to say, having discussed it at the table, I kind of felt like search and rescue should be under the public safety head.
So search and rescue from a community perspective in the first 72 hours with no police officers or firemen present is super light. It's about welfare checks, people checking on their neighbors, people going door to door. And that's why it ended up, that was the discussion we had at the last meeting, that's how it ended up under.
I was here then,
But that was, I don't want to tell you what you were and weren't doing, I'm just saying, Suzanne, that's how we came to that conclusion. But that is why that exists there. Our public safety became more of the community emergency response people who are forming, Red Hook Initiative is forming a group under that, the NYCHA houses. We're having the NYCHA meeting tomorrow to discuss the NYCHA houses response teams. So those are more the public safety piece that has an actual response and training that goes with that. That's the only difference. In the world that you and I work in, Red Cross, emergency management, it would fall to public safety. Health and medical the Adavo. Anything else?
They also said Michium for health and medical.
And sure, sure. What about?
I think utility power.
I can't hear you.
IKEA.
I just want it said that the guy wearing the IKEA shirt said IKEA for utilities. I'm not holding you to it, I'm just saying that's how it went down. Anything else for utilities? No? Look, certainly said that. Hi. Did you come up with anything for communication and coordination? I didn't get that far. Or any, that's okay if you didn't get that far. The discussion is as important as what you produce, so.
And one thing that our facility manager brought up is all those buildings that are on the list. Do we know if they have how many floors? Do they have generator? Do they have do we have a list of exactly what they can offer? How can they sustain all that? Do we know all that already?
Why
The
easily
short
navigable
answer
staircases?
is yes. The longer answer is, will all that be functioning? Hard to say because it depends on the event, right? The assumption we made going in is we asked two things in the planning group meeting. Were these facilities up and running after Hurricane Sandy? That was because that's the biggest thing that's happened to Red Hook in the last whatever. So that's our planning criteria. And if it wasn't flooded, had power, was up and running, and could be open in the first 12 hours, it's on that list. That's how that was the criteria for that list. What they have in them, different floors, that stuff, if we decide to use a building, that's a more in-depth conversation. But we have to get the list together so we know who we can contact to talk to about what makes sense. And it's entirely possible that we go to these people and they're like, yeah, no. Which I fully expect, FYI, from the Adavo Center. So that's, how that shapes, yeah.
How did Fairway get on the list?
Because apparently Fairway has several floors. There was some discussion. Who was in the planning meeting with the discussion around the Fairway?
Yeah, there's this, they said that there was this empty storage building that hadn't been used for years on the second floor of the Fairway building owned by Fairway.
It wasn't originally on the list. It ended up on the list because apparently the second floors were opened up relatively quickly.
I would assume too, you hope that Fairway's putting some kind
They did change to some extent. It's now all cement, right? There's a wash markers in that building, you know.
Yeah, they're putting floodgates up, they've done a lot of, so instead of putting in stuff stone on the, but it works now, but.
Right. And the general manager is aware of this process and is waiting for the outcome.
I would also say baked. I
Right,
don't know if that came up, but that was totally the communications hub.
Reality.
Like baked, yeah. And for some reason, it was on Mountain Coffee, that one block that didn't flood. And that was where everybody had coffee and
Sure.
power.
Sure.
Places to sit and
Open
everybody.
acre was open.
Everybody knew where it was.
The Kentler Gallery was open for those of you who need to take in some more. We're going to get into that for just a second. I want to finish up this process. Did you guys come up with any other buildings? Perfect. Green. All right, down to this front table. What'd you come up with?
Before our team captain volunteers anything, let me just volunteer one factor we were thinking about. We're all in the mindset of a flood and a hurricane.
Right.
We may not have a timeline.
Right.
It may be dark tomorrow, and the beauty about this is, could you find whatever it is in the dark? So I love, everybody's been saying stuff, what's your primary, secondary, tertiary? So the robustness of this conversation was, what if we can't get there? What if we have to come in by the water to get supplies in? So in that context, we're thinking about anything, aliens coming in, what then? So anyway, I'll leave it to our
Rob,
team
we're
captain.
gonna call you for you to bring it in. What do you think?
I have news for you. If the aliens land in Brooklyn, there's definitely coming to Redmond.
They're already here.
Guilty as
Speaking like a true beta.
All right, can we get a report out from the front table, please? What'd you come up with? Health and medical.
We had a big discussion, so they didn't get anything done.
Excellent.
And Sopna's at that table?
I know. All right, let's do it. It's hot. We're getting punchy. I'd like to go home.
Okay, so health and medical.
Yeah.
We all came to the consensus that it'd be the Mikio
Okay.
and Joseph Agavo, which we a little iffy because that's like we gave them flood zone.
Well, we're all in the flood zone. It's ready.
Right, so flood zone and inland. And if we got hit with a 12-footer, as my partner over here said, it's no more railroad.
Well, we got 12 feet. There was 13 feet came up over the rec center and through under IKEA.
Under IKEA.
Yeah. But took out the farm, right?
Yep.
Literally, for those who don't know this farm. Okay.
So we have utilities.
Utilities.
Coffee Park and the baseball field.
Okay.
Communication and coordination, we have the Mikio, Fairway, and the baseball field.
Moving too fast, Marilyn.
Oh, sorry.
And Mikio.
Fairway.
Fairway.
And baseball field.
Fairway.
Public safety.
All fields.
Just put BS.
I don't want to be confused with my best friend Jack, because she lives in San Francisco now. All right. Public safety.
Basis independent.
Independent? No headquarters.
That would be.
What did you say?
Basis.
Public safety basis.
We didn't use
Basis?
basis because they're not up yet.
They're not up yet.
That's the private school.
The new
It's
school.
not there yet.
Yeah.
It's on Bay Street.
Yeah, but it's not constructed yet.
Right, but the thing is, this is what it is. So
But
like
tomorrow, we're talking about tomorrow.
Okay, well, we have an earthquake tomorrow. Nobody will be up.
Maybe. Where's our petition?
I'll just tell you the reason Basis, for those of you who don't know, Basis is the new charter school being built over on Bay Street. Is that true?
They keep calling me. Felix just called me a little while ago.
It's totally irrelevant.
Because we've been told.
Facility that
No
doesn't exist
kidding.
yet.
That's what the emergency is.
So, from a planning lens, and as a planner of many, many years, I won't tell you how old I am, planning for a facility that doesn't exist is a bad idea. So I would push back, and I don't push back often, but I'm pushing back like I did to Wally Basemore last week. If you were here, you would expect nothing less. On basis. If basis can at least get, say, a construction side up, we can start talking about what that looks like. But right now, they don't even have an ETA. Okay, so not basis, but someplace else.
Yeah, but we have to skip over that.
All right, skip on basis. All right. Woo!
So
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit, and I want to have this conversation because we had it in the planning group organically, and I'm going to force it on you guys because that's what I do. Rob, what was your thinking behind public safety?
My thinking behind public safety is where people can go and be safe. Public safety to me, I mean, basically, it will fall under the 76 and PSA 1 as public safety. But they're the ones, but at the same time, we as residents can help one another in protecting our own property and looking out for those who can't help themselves. So,
Okay.
for the most part, it's just the safekeeping of the people around. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, so for you, it didn't matter if it was fairway or paved. It was more about, doesn't seem relevant where it's at.
But at least if people want to feel safe at a certain location, they can go to these places and be safe.
Safe place. Like it. Ms. Brock.
I don't think it matters where it's at because it should be people that are dispatched out. So it won't matter where.
And who's doing the dispatching out? Because it's not actually happening at public safety.
Right, it will be happening at another location.
Karen is dispatching because she's the boss of all of us. Communication and coordination. Communication and coordination, it manages volunteers, manages coordination. Logistics is managing transportation, resource management, right? So that's kind of where the, hey, we need somebody to go check on so-and-so. Hey, has anybody gone all the way up the floors in the houses yet? Hey, it's all happening at the communications and logistics space, right? So that's true. So maybe public safety doesn't have a place. What was your thinking behind public safety? You guys didn't think about public safety. That's where we got stopped. That's okay not to think about public safety. It rarely occurs to me. Did you guys have a thought about public safety basis? You want to use basis? Skip over the fact that it doesn't exist yet. What was your thinking about that space?
Well, like we kind of did this at the last minute, but me as an individual, I think that, like Kim said, public safety is something that has a response team, and because within the tall buildings, I think that.
Stacey Johnson Leonard.
Hi, Stacey. I love Stacey Johnson Leonard.
So, I figured that, because we had talked about this before, but we really didn't get onto it, but like each floor, because it goes into 14 flights, each floor should have a team captain that's responsible to get in contact with the neighbor on that floor, so that the information will trickle down, and we'll have a list for each floor of who needs what, who does it, who's gonna go, who is it, and then that, like, it can go down from floor captain to the first floor, and that information is then submitted to whoever is the response team captain for each, that area.
So what you just described is the emergency response teams, block captains, floor captains, this thing that people are working to develop right now,
Not floor
right? The
captains, but
structure.
team leaders and the floors, and then block captains,
Totally.
that information will go to.
Okay, and specifically, you keep mentioning the NYCHA houses. And specifically.
Well, not just NYCHA, but it's like, if you say block captain, that block captain will just have NYCHA.
Should it be
will
Pioneer Street?
Whoever's on Richard Street going around,
Sure,
whoever's on Van Brunt Street, so that it'll be a list of, these are the people that had, need their medication stored. These are the people that have asthma and we need to store oxygen tanks, and we need to know that we can get this oxygen out to them. So that list will come from the residents themselves as an emergency mechanism for us to feel safe and for our neighbors to feel safe. So it's like we're being responsible for each other.
Okay. So what you just said to me, and I'm going to say it back to you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that those teams that are going around, which isn't just the emergency response teams, but also sounds like the health and medical group, are not located. They're moving.
Right.
They're mobile. Does anybody think they're not mobile? You think they're not mobile?
They have to meet somewhere to find out where they're going.
I think they do, but who is coordinating that?
Well, logistics.
So where is logistics located? IKEA. I guess my point is this, and I'm trying to get you guys there organically, but it's hot, so I'm just going to push it a little more. The some of these teams don't have to have I'm meeting separately.
Right.
We have our own space. We have our own, they could meet at logistics, or they could meet at communication and coordination, wherever that makes sense, which I feel might be communication and coordination.
And Noel, couldn't some of these groups meet outside of Red Hook? They don't have to be zoned in Red Hook?
Maybe.
Like
maybe.
a communication team?
I mean, depending on the event, that might even be not, it could be, but it should be. So depending. I don't know. These are Plan A facilities, right? This is our Plan A. Ideally, it stays close and local so people can get there quickly, right? We were talking about Plan B in a second. Let's get through Plan A. So my point to you is this, is that maybe public safety, maybe health and medical are mobile, and that they meet wherever communications and coordination is, because that's where it's going to be sent out. The conversation we had in planning was logistics management, which is also resource management and distribution, donation management and distribution. That might want to be co-located with communications and coordination. I know it sounds like we're building a very large hub. They might want to be split, but they might want to be located close by each other, if not in the same facility. So those are the kinds of conversations that I think we are having right now. Go.
Along those lines, a great point was made, whether it be mobile or whether it be decentralized, because the density of population, you can't have everything all at one spot because you're going to have saturation and further chaos and magnify the problem. So the mobility issue is 3 contact teams or 3 locations that are relatively accessible meets that disbursement criteria that we recommend.
I love this. Yes. Does anybody disagree with that? Have other thoughts on that?
Yeah, but since we have these wonderful folks from IKEA here tonight, we're kind of putting a lot of things in IKEA, which might be great,
Oh, I
but
didn't even know they was here.
I guess my question is sort of where in IKEA, because last time I was there, you have a lot of stuff in there. A lot of space. So if we were putting, would it be in the parking lot, would it be in the parking garage, if we needed space, where would it?
Well, like after Sandy, we had places, we converted half of our restaurant for FEMA, we had conference rooms for small business administration, another conference room we set up for co-worker housing.
And your
We
parking
have
lot
some
is
space available, especially behind the shopping center area. But of course, there is definitely the huge parking lots, huge grass fields, still a lot of open houses.
So like there could be tents, possibly.
And it could depend entirely on the event.
If it was more. Right.
And it could depend entirely on the event. I mean, depending on the event, you may have tons of space and no problems, and maybe a bigger event you have a relationship. I think right now the idea is just to get the identified locations, because there has to be a whole conversation with each place. And so far, we've talked about health and medical, public safety, and we're on communications and coordination, and we haven't assigned anybody anything yet. We've made these 2 mobile, right? Yes?
I think they have to have a place. And they don't have to stay there, but like if you're mobile, they have to have an assigned place to meet.
Okay.
If you're mobile, then how do you find each other?
I agree. I thought we had said that they were going to check in with communication and coordination.
So we're just saying they all, wherever communication coordination is where that's at.
Well, if that's where they're going to be deployed from, it's not where their stockpiles kept. Health and medical, by the way, is being championed by Matt. Medical Matt, most of you know as Medical Matt. And it is not, it is going to be 4 paramedic bags for full triage. So it's mobile, it's ready to go.
Right.
And that's being managed, handled, and stockpiled already. And it's just a matter of finding a stockpile hub to keep our stockpile, that would be in the stockpile. All co-located in one place is going to create the cluster that Rob was talking about.
And that's a problem, and to not have an identified place is a problem. So, yeah, I think.
You have to raise your hand. So you got.
I was just from experience.
Yes, ma'am.
For example, we had everything, a lot of things with RHI.
Yep.
And we had, I was there, we had nurses, we had doctors, treated people there. Also, they took teams out, walkie-talkies, whatever, and went up to the housing or wherever else people needed help that could not get to where we were, but they knew we were there. So if we have one place, and we know that the team was there, and that team was going to mobilize certain people to help out those who cannot come to where it would be at.
Where is that place?
Well, those are the
The joy of doing this time is that it doesn't HI.
Yes,
Jill
exactly.
Eisenhardt really appreciates that.
Yes.
So we could do RHI, we could do any number of locations.
Yes.
The question is to the group, what makes the most sense? Yes. Hi, I don't even know you. And you nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, thank you.
Thank you.
I think all of these things are to some extent interrelated to each other.
Sure.
And somehow to assume one to be in a fixed place, this is very idealistic. We have to think of more scenarios for each circumstances. We could think that, for example, Adobe's that are perfect for the hospital or health and so, and then we see that the 6-7 feet of water there, nobody even can go there.
Sure.
And everything was already accumulated for 1 year, in 2 hours all destroyed and not useful. My idea is the best way to have a centralized command center in the safest possible place. Everybody should have CB, not a battery operated CB, which not related to any telephone thing, because in telephone, if a hurricane comes, let's assume hurricane or anything comes from south and the towers are somewhere in New Jersey destroyed, we don't have telephone in here.
Right.
Everybody could be mobile. They are pre-assigned places. However, there are 6 categories over there. There are 6 masters of these specialties. They're well trained. Each category has 2 backup persons. And these backup person is there. For example, if I'm going to handle logistics and she is going to be the secondary to logistics, and so if that day I'm sick and I'm not available, if that day I'm out of town, that the emergency happens, and she can do her, there's a somehow rotating assignment is there. There's no gap. And then our team has so-called CBs and they can communicate with each other. The next issue about communication with the population is practically using telephone system is impossible. What we could do is this. We could have loudspeakers, for example, 20 loudspeakers, square footage of Retro is not big enough. There are cities, there are 2 millions of square miles wide in the counties or so. In here, very little, very small space. They can have loudspeakers like in the schools or so in 4 different directions and a few places that one can, from the central command center, they can operate by solar batteries. There these days you can use them Wi-Fi and other things, and so you can use without telephone system. You can use locally intranet type of things, not internet, not intranet, which is work with it. Using the technology, I think we will be able to really to solve all of these problems so simplistically. It sounds very complicated if we look at it from each dimension, but if we put all together and stay back and look at it, and I think that would be the ideal situation, centralized command center, 6 master of each category, 6 assigned master, and always duplicate or so, and then communication via CBs, loudspeakers to communicate the entire community, and then everybody should have some type of uniform. This uniform are, for example, orange color, and maybe we will have 6 different colors or so. And just simply write over there public safety, logistics, this and that, and so this way they can go to that person. And this uniform is not very t-shirt type of thing, or plastic thing, just simply in a highway you can see that they are repairing the road. And so you put this and everybody knows to whom to go ask what.
Yes.
And these people, they can communicate, and everybody communicate to master, and master makes the decision, knows that where are the safe place and a valuable place and right place for the people to come to meet. And the red room is not far away. Within 7-8 minutes, you can meet either this end, that end, or somewhere. So while we assign something, but those assignments are in ideal situation are good, but in real emergency may not be accessible, may not be useful.
What we're doing, so first of all, kudos, because what you just did was flush out the communications plan, the health medical plan, public safety plan. PA system that we were talking about.
We're done, thank you.
I think, Abe, I wish you could come 5 meetings. Thank you so much. So thank you because you're spot on. But, for example, and I'm going to bring it all back home right now, where do they go to get their radio and their orange vest? I'm just going to put it out like that. That's very simplistic. What we're talking about here are not these individual plans. There are champions assigned to each one of these functions, and they are working on those individual plans, and frankly, Abe, you should attend all those meetings. But for the purposes of right now, the question is, where do they go? So it's time, according to our timeline, we got an alert from the National Weather Service And so the first thing that activates in Red Hook is their communications people. So Rob Smith is like, oh crap, we have a National Weather Service something. I have to go do my communication. Where? So where does communication and coordination live? That's the question. That's the question, and it's quite literally the question I have to you right now. That one specific question. One.
Downtown.
You're allowed one word, Abe. You have 2 words on Brooklyn.
Downtown Brooklyn. Because anything downtown Brooklyn, you got it up. If you got it downtown Brooklyn, you just spoke already.
Talk about red.
No, but you can start your communication from downtown Brooklyn. Get to the people.
I was thinking that
We don't have that kind of.
that's an interesting idea, but I was thinking that we can't, if it's pre-disaster, then like Helva's IQ will probably be, they'll be like, well, there's no disaster now, I'm gonna
Right.
be, we're
And
open
maybe
for
there won't be
business,
one,
right?
right? It's an advisory.
Right, so this should be at a place that would be, that is a place that is built to serve the community. So like the Migio Center,
Right.
RHI.
Right.
Somewhere near, so just in case it does happen, they're already settled there.
Exactly.
They can tell.
And if it does evolve, then everybody knows where to keep going for
Right,
that communication
exactly.
information. I will also point out that the National Weather Service advisory, the first National Weather Service advisory we got for Hurricane Sandy was 8 days before landfall. So Rob Smith doesn't need to be sitting at the Migio for a week and change, right? So we want to make sure that we're putting him in a space where he can function if he needs to. Also, not every National Weather Service advisory gives you 8 days lead, depending on the event, right? Sometimes it's hours depending on the event. So it just kind of depends. So yes, and yes, having things outside of Red Hook is our plan B. Right now we're working on plan A, which is inside of Red Hook. The ideal scenario that Abe pointed out. But we need to get through this plan A before we can move to plan B. Yes, Rob?
Command centers, in my recommendation, you gotta factor, can it be safe, can it be high, can it be accessible?
Is it going to have power? Is it going to have Wi-Fi?
Just, I'm not from Red Hook, so I don't know everybody's, basement and rooftop, but one proposed, I would make it the train station, the vicinity there. And we have great road coverage, you buy the water, so you do access by water, if we do have, need to get a response team there.
The
And you can also defend it.
But the train is open, Rob.
Well, the point being, if there's a location somewhere near there, you're near rail, you're near road, it's also defendable if there are a lot of bad guys running around, that's all I'm saying.
So our hub, our command center, is going to be our communications and coordination. I've got a vote here for the train station. Tony.
So there are 2 things going on in Red Hook right now that are going to eventually become something. One is like the Wi-Fi network, which is slowly being built. There's another thing that if you're at the Red Hook Fest this weekend, you would have seen this thing called the Hub. The Hub is like this whole communication system that's like online. There's going to be a bulletin board at the library. There's going to be a bulletin board outside of this building. There's going to be like little bulletin boards in like delis and bodegas. So my point is, both of those things are happening, and they're both sort of coming out. Well, the Wi-Fi is like everybody in the community is doing it, but Red Hook Niche is leading it up. But the hub is RHI, Good Shepherd, the library, a couple others. My point is, maybe it should be RHI because RHI is involved in all these communication projects.
Anybody disagree? You can.
Rob.
I don't disagree, but I'm just asking, what if there's no power?
Well, that's what we say.
They have
and I think
power
that's
lines.
what we're saying is we gotta have backups. We gotta all these things.
Everybody's going to need a backup.
Right, and
Yeah,
all these
everything's
things is
needed
like, well, it might be, if it's not there, then this is where it's gonna be, and or maybe it's there for a few days and it's gonna change, and
Sure.
they let everybody know.
And again, we're talking about the first 72 hours. We're not talking about the first month, right? We're talking about 72 hours. But the other piece that I think is important is even if we pick RHI, and because after Hurricane Sandy, RHI didn't flood and had power, was open up the next couple days, it doesn't mean that's going to be the case in the future. So we'll have backups. Right now, we're just working on the primaries. So we're not to our secondaries yet. So ideally RHI, and I think I agree with that, unless anybody in this room thinks that's completely crazy, I'm circling it.
Circle.
All right, communication and coordination. And we've made public safety mobile and health and medical mobile, but we still want to assign them a check-in place. Is that true?
Yes.
Where do we want them to check in?
Why wouldn't they be doing RHI as a kind of command center and?
So they should check in at RHI.
Well, somebody
that's too much of a flood of people for RHI.
Yeah.
It should be somewhere else. You gotta spread that out. You could
Oh,
hardly walk in
Suzanne,
RHI last
that-
time.
Like if you're stockpiling, you're gonna be stockpiling in different locations?
The stockpile, just be clear, the stockpile does not have a defined location yet. Currently, stockpile items are being housed at the Red Hook Volunteers. It can't live there because the Red Hook Volunteers got their building because it was flooded and abandoned. So that's not an ideal location for a stockpile.
So, but my question is it's the intention to have the medical stockpile in one place when you find that place?
The medical, the generators, the flashlight, ideally in a space that is above.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
I mean, for the health and medical, wherever that space is, it sort of makes sense that that's where they're going to go so that then they can get equipped and supplies and.
Logistics and management is what you're talking about. That's where the stockpile is over.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes sense.
For each
Abe's afraid to
category-
talk now because I made fun of him.
For each category, I believe it's a good idea to have three places. One, priority.
Primary, secondary,
and then
tertiary.
third one optional. And so,
Sure.
I think and then command center, what they will do, they will say that, okay, the primary that we have to have all the generators or the medical men and so, unfortunately is damaged or not accessible, go to secondary, number 2 or number 3 and so. I think for each category we have 1 to 3, and the command center defines which one is valuable, because command center really is the brain of all these operations.
Absolutely.
And,
right now we're just trying to define the primary. Yes. We're going to do primary, secondary, tertiary?
Sure.
Absolutely. Right now we just need to identify the primary. Food and shelter, primary locations. We've said here that public safety, health, and medical are going to check in where logistics are. We have not assigned a place for logistics management yet, so just keep with me. Food and shelters. One of the things that I see across all of this and what happened after the last major disaster is the churches really took that space. Everybody thinks the churches are going to have their food and shelter, and for those people, especially those who English is their second language, their primary place to go is their church, because that's where they have congregation, common language, and they don't have to worry about the government finding out where they're at. And that's a big, important piece. So we want to make sure we're addressing that. Churches, yes? And they're going to be working collectively in a group. Sister Rose is going to be bossing them around because I'm buying her 2 generators for Christmas. So we're doing churches for food and shelter, yes? Thank you. That's what I need more of that. So we still need to come up with utilities and logistics management. I wasn't going to call you out, but you walked right in front of me.
It's really hard to be stealthy around here.
There's no stealth. Nobody look, Rob's leaving.
Good job.
Rob. Thanks, Rob. So logistics management and utilities. Utilities is kind of this weird wonky function because it's about the generators. It's about what? Plugging in your cell phone. It's about energy, where it's coming from. People talked about solar panels and arrays and all these things that don't exist yet. Well, that's not true. There's a couple. I thought the solar panels that were put into the farm were pretty impressive, and it turns out they won't power much. So
Didn't IKEA put up some solar?
he says he doesn't want to commit to that.
I think we learned some new things. Well, I don't know. I learned some new things about IKEA. They have a lot of their utilities underground with their newer construction, so they didn't lose any power.
Right.
Then they also have, their first floor is 12 feet above the flood elevation, so they're not going to get.
Just one of those.
If I may say something,
You may.
I am the facility manager in IKEA.
Thank you for coming. I want you to know that you missed the beginning speech where I said we haven't talked to these buildings and they have in no way committed to anything.
And we just keep saying IKEA.
But we really appreciate the 3 of you showing up in force.
Anyway, by experience, I've been on this side. I've been on this side for 44 years. So I saw all the flood, the nor'easter that we had. Sandy, we knew was going to be bad. We didn't know it was going to be that bad. And when we built IKEA, as I was saying before, we raised our site about an average of 12 feet over on the year's flood. We thought we were safe. Then Sandy came, but fortunately IKEA was built to withstand this kind of hurricane. We built a substation, Hurricane 5, 5, that it's 30 feet in the air. So we did not lose power, not because Sky Madison gave us power, because we did the right job at the beginning.
Word up.
So I know that we could open the following day. We just had minor things, little things, but nothing vital. Our generator was there, and it's got 1,000 gallon of fuel is always filled. So and it's all over the underneath flood. We had 13 feet over underneath flood. So the water came in and out fast. Every flood couple of days. So and for the experience we knew a couple of days after we opened and we had shelter for people. So I think utility IKEA should be
From the facilities manager.
my operation manager. If we are here because we want to be here. Our boss told me to go there, so we came here. We are neighborhood people who want to help.
And we appreciate it, and we look forward to it. Thank you very much. All right. IKEA for utilities.
IKEA for everything. I'm going to IKEA. I didn't know all that. I'm going to IKEA.
Before you leave, I would like all of you to please take my business card because I need to follow up with you. But then I'd also like to say that the utilities and logistics management, because the stockpile and the generators and the crank battery flashlight things all need to be co-located, would you also be willing to or open to a discussion that included managing logistics management with us? I'm not sure what you want to stop.
They've got to, Noel, they've got to ask.
Let's say we're open to that
How
discussion.
possible it is.
Okay, so-
We cannot commit to it because we don't know
We
what.
got to talk to Frederic.
But we can definitely.
All right. I bet they never come to another meeting.
They will.
That was a little confusing, I think. Are you asking them to be the logistics team or to house the logistics team?
To housing.
Yeah.
To housing. To housing. But there is for those facilities that agree to house, there is going to be some planning and some time commitment that our community champions are going to need to pair with you and talk to you about. But I'm happy to start that conversation and give it some shape and move that forward. So seriously, my card.
They did have a little experience because
They had a lot of
Well,
experience.
they did
They did a lot of stuff
We got
there.
donations from everywhere that were going to certain areas. Plus, we got calls from IKEA saying, we come to these donations because, you kept getting donations as well. So, if there was some place like IKEA that everyone knows, we can, whoever wants to give donations, send it to IKEA, so IKEA would be responsible to split it up to the neighborhood. That would be great because it would be dry and safe there.
Okay, so that actually doesn't sound good. Does anybody want to check that? We're going to, thank you. So we're going to wrap this up. What we have not finished is a facility, a hard facility for logistics management. But I'm super charming and very persuasive, and we're going to talk later, so that works. What our next steps are for this process, and I hope you guys are starting to see it come together. So if you remember our plan, ready? The 30-second wrap-up. Our plan is 4 chapters big. The first chapter is the boring stuff, how many times we met, where we met, who was in attendance, all that stuff. The second chapter is the project list, the recovery project list, which has a life of its own. It's dynamic, it's ongoing, it lives online if you need a hard copy. Come see me, I'm happy to provide that for you. Chapter 3 is the Red Book readiness plan for the first 72 hours, and that is on the wall, frankly, currently. We have these support functions. Each one of them has a champion from the community assigned to it. We have this timeline for activation that you guys developed yourselves together. We have now identified potential locations for when we activate where they're supposed to go. We are almost there. This is what we would call the home stretch. If this were a baseball game, we'd be standing on third, and we're about to get a big one, okay? So what we need to do from this point on is a very serious to-do list. You're going to start hearing from me. Here's the thing. You got to call me back. I know you guys are sick of seeing me in these meetings. Just give me a shout back when I call you. If you've agreed to be a champion, which actually I think one of my champions is in the room today. Then we need to get you moving with your people. My call to action to the group, too. Hi, I didn't see you come in. Sorry. Hi, Victoria.
Oh. Robert and I both looked at each other like, well, wait, who's the champion in the room?
Rob is the champion for logistics. Don't even act like you don't know. Okay. What the call to action to the community is today, aside from thank you very much for going through this process with us. Each one of these support functions, keep pointing to the wrong map. Each one of these support functions requires a handful of people to make sure they get up and running and off the ground. So the ask to the community is to take some time and think about it at the next meeting. At the next meeting, we're doing two things. We're going to ask you guys to sign up for a single support function, only one, because you can't be in two places at once, just one. And we're going to ask you to participate in it. You don't have to be in charge of it, but you might have to attend a couple of meetings or at least be on a separate call tree, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing we're going to do is we are going to walk through a hurricane scenario just like Hurricane Sandy with our new plan. Yes? It's God, and she's a woman. You laugh, I knew that already. I knew it was a woman. We're going to walk through this plan, through the scenario, to see what makes sense and where it's real, with our champions. So that's the next community meeting, okay guys? And I'd like to tell you what that date is, so I don't have it.
Monday the 23rd.
Monday the 23rd, like magic, that's God, also a woman. Any questions before we wrap? 23rd June? The 23rd of June.
He said the 23rd.
All of the meetings from here on out are in the NICU. All of them are in this room. Okay? If you haven't signed the sign-in sheet, do so now. Thank you, thank you.